Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So it mentions the gender role of a woman. After that it says, وَاللَّاتِ تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ. So he's speaking to the men. And those where you fear. So this is very important. You fear. نُشُوزَهُنَّ. And this is also very important. And this aspect I've seen mistranslated or misinterpreted. It's saying nushuzahunna, her nushuz. This is what you fear. You're fearing her nushuz. In other words, what you notice here is there's idafa, nushuzahunna. It's as if it's a part of the woman. In other words, what it's saying is there will be nushuz from a woman. What does nushuz mean? You have nashaza, the verb nashaza yanshuzu. This means two things: elevation, but also to be out of place. That's something that you notice. So in Arabic we say, for example, hada nashaz. Nashaz means it doesn't fit in. It's out of place. So this is actually the meaning of nushuz, that it's an action. It's an action or actions that are out of line. They're not what she regularly does. Now, a woman gets upset from time to time. Things you see things. A man is supposed to be lenient towards his wives, or his wife. Sorry. So it's out of place from the wife, and you expect this from a wife, that she's going to get upset. She's going to do things that are out of line. But a man is supposed to overlook these things. It's not a big issue for him. But when it is a big issue is when he starts to fear this nushuz from the woman. So, allati takhafuna nushuzahunna, that you start to fear. So this nushuz that she's doing, before you were okay with it, but it's getting out of hand now. And you have this fear. Now notice something, it didn't say what the fear is. Where is the fear directed to? Is it, I fear for myself? Or I fear for my wife, where she's going? Or I fear for my marriage? Or I fear for my kids? Or I fear for all of us? So this fear he has for nushuz, it could be directed to anyone. And it's affecting the household, the marriage, whatever it is. Okay? Now I've heard this interpretation where some have interpreted it as meaning if they fear it's going to happen. The Quran didn't say that. If you look at the way it should have been worded, if that was the case, it would be worded differently. It would be allati takhafuna an yashuzna. So في المستقبل. But when you say takhafuna nushuzahunna, the nushuz is already there. Okay, so just an example of this in the Quran, we have, for example, in Surah Yusuf, where Yaqub alayhi salam says, وَأَخَافُ أَن يَأْكُلَهُ الذِّئْبُ. I fear that he'll get eaten, or he'll get attacked or eaten by a wolf. So that's in the future. His fear is for something that's going to happen in the future. أَن يَأْكُلَهُ الذِّئْبُ. So there's an an and يَأْكُلَ. This is actually a masdar mu'awwal coming as the maf'ul. And that's the way it should have been. So it should be allati takhafuna an yashuzna, as opposed to yakhafuna nushuzahunna. And the difference between this ayah and the other ayah of the man, وَإِنِ امْرَأَةٌ خَافَتْ مِنْ بَعْلِهَا نُشُوزًا. Any nushuz, ukhafat, it was actually in the past. It's a past tense, meaning that it only happened once. Just one khawf, that's it. she does something about it, then she follows those steps. For a man, allati takhafuna nushuzahunna. So it's building up, it's happening, and it's not just khawf yani mara wahda. It can happen once and you just you act on it. No, takhafuna, something that's happening constantly. It's happening all the time. And then you get to a stage where you want to act before something serious happens. So, allati takhafuna nushuzahunna. And what is nushuz? That's another question. Takhafuna nushuzahunna. Nushuz it could be anything out of place. So anything that is out of line, and you only act when it's يصير مخيف, يعني when it becomes, when you have the fear, either for yourself, for your wife, for your family, for your marriage, then you act upon it. So اللاتي تخافون نشوزهن فعظوهن. Advise them. That's brilliant advice. Okay, so you advise them, and there's no limit on, or there's no restriction on how long that will take. This could be the only step that you need. Speak to her, problem solved. If it doesn't get solved, then you do another step, which is وَهْجُرُوهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. Just a few points here. There's some misinterpretations of this as well. It says فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. It didn't say عَنِ الْمَضَاجِعِ or مِنَ الْمَضَاجِعِ. It said فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. In other words, the hajr, the separation happens in bed, where you turn your back to her. فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. So you still go to bed, but you leave a gap. And for women, that will send alarm bells going off. So it's next step, where you advised her, but you're still doing it. So وَهْجُرُوهُنَّ, and وَهْجُرُوهُنَّ is there's no limit as well how long that's done. A woman will straight away recognize, honey, what's wrong? You're not the same. So that will happen when you do that. Now, if that doesn't happen, then the problem must be very big. Some problems are really big, and some problems actually can't be solved with speaking to her or turning your back in bed. It doesn't get solved that way. You need something specific.